Well, good morning, and welcome. Welcome to Love Akron Connect. Let me go ahead and drop that beat like that. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Benjamin Beaver, and I am so excited to get to be with you today. And we got just a great morning set up. As you can see, I'm just, sitting on the beach, just like everybody else. Not stuck inside at all. Not delusions of grandeur. No, I'm sitting just on a beach, loving life, and I hopefully you are too. Hopefully you had coffee that doesn't disappear, because this is definitely not a virtual background and fake in any way. Good morning. If you guys actually don't mind, real quick, before we get jumping into everything, if you can just go to that chat box or the comment there on Facebook or YouTube, if you can, this morning, tell me what is well about life. I know, it's a little bit of a dumb pun, but it's early in the morning right now. We're going to be talking to the well. So tell me what is well in your life. That's probably the corniest opening I have ever begun with, but I'm excited to do it this morning. Why? Because I'm the hype guy at 7 a.m., which is very fun. So hopefully you have a cup of coffee. Hopefully you find that right there, that chat button, that comment button. Just go ahead and comment in. I had my cup of coffee this morning. That is well. I have no other ideas in my head right now about what is well, but hey, it is well. Go ahead and just put that in the chat box, and please, throughout the entire program, you can actually just comment in there, ask questions of those that we're featuring today, and it is very exciting. So I'm going to be passing it over to the wonderful, the magical, as it were, Keith Morgenstern. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
And what is well with you this morning, my friend?
My coffee's good this morning. I'm up. I'm awake. I'm not on a beach. I am in tropical Akron, Ohio. So, and this is my virtual coffee. So thank you, Ben, for passing it over. So welcome everyone to Love Akron Connect. First of all, if you have not been with us before, let me explain what is Love Akron Connect. Love Akron Connect brings people together from the greater Akron marketplace to build relationships, serve, pray, and encourage one another to live out our faith. So let me begin with prayer for everyone. Lord, we give you thanks for this morning. We give you thanks for where we are right now in this world, in this life, and we know that you're in control. So much happening right now in this world, and it can overwhelm us unless we turn it over to you and we pour our anxiety out into you and through you and trust you. And so we trust you, Lord, this morning. We come together as a group and look to learn more about this great organization within Akron today. And I say, pray blessings on our guests and what they do and everyone who is participating this morning. So Lord, thank you again, and we bless you and praise you in the name of Jesus. Amen. So everyone, thank you again for joining us. If you have not joined us before, as I explained what Love Akron Connect is, we do try to build relationships and bring people together. And we, of course, used to do that in face-to-face breakfast meetings. But today we're in this pandemic world that we're living in. We've been doing this virtually now for the last several months and having a fun time with it and still engaging people and getting people to know more about Akron and how to love Akron. So for today, we will be having some introductory information for you. We'll kick this off and we're going to go directly into the interview session. That'll take us up until about 7:50. And then we have about 10 minutes maybe left of some questions, answers, as well as then some announcements about some big things that are coming up in the near future here for Love Akron. So let me also tell you that we also have opportunities to sponsor these meetings. And today we do have a sponsor with us is Jessica Goff, and Jessica is the coordinator of Summa Health Volunteer Services. And so she's here to tell us a little bit about some current volunteer opportunities that are available to all of us. So Jessica, can you, want to take it over?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So when the pandemic started, we had to dismiss all of our volunteers just for their safety. We have slowly started in the last couple of weeks to bring folks back, but we do just have some limited volunteer opportunities available. Normally, when I would sponsor one of these, I would talk about our prayer visitation volunteers, which unfortunately right now is not one of the groups that we've been able to bring back because they're obviously out on the units visiting with patients, and that's not something we want to do right now for their safety. So we have opportunities available to volunteer at all of our information desks, in our gift shops, doing clerical work, and those are about the only 3 general positions that we've been able to bring back right now. I would say our information desk is a vital volunteer opportunity because they're the front door, the face of the hospital when folks walk in. So they're directing patients where to go, they're directing families where to go, just helping with anything and everything that you can think of. Gift shop is another big one because people use our gift shops all the time and depend on our gift shops. And then clerical is really helping out just about every department in the hospital with different things within office settings. So that's what we've got going on right now, and that's what's available for everyone.
Great, Jessica. We appreciate you taking the time out and tell us more about that today. And if they need to get, we have some interest in that, how do they get a hold of you?
They can reach out directly to me. My phone number, I will put in the chat box. I'll put my phone number, our general volunteer phone number, and our general volunteer email. So I'll put all 3 of those in the chat box if anybody wants to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you.
All right. Sponsoring a monthly breakfast is a simple and inexpensive way to promote your business or your organization. It's open to commercial and nonprofits, and you can contact Lori Porter at Love Akron, and she can get you all the information for any future meetings that you would like to sponsor. As you're well aware, of course, you're online with us now. Love Akron Connect, we used to meet face-to-face for breakfast. Just so you know, we are going to continue this until the foreseeable future, until we know it is safe to come back together. So for now, go ahead and feel comfortable, get another cup of coffee, pretend you're at Akron Family Restaurant with us, and just enjoy what you learned today. And please participate. We have the chat box open. Ask questions. We'll go to those questions if we can, as many of them as we can. So please participate today. So for today's meeting, we're going to have a closer look at an organization that is transforming a once distressed East Akron neighborhood into a family-friendly, thriving community. We're going to learn about the Well Community Development Corporation. It's Akron's first place-based community development corporation devoted to the Middlebury neighborhood, which seeks to provide and create a shared prosperity for current residents through housing, economic development, and placemaking initiatives. The Well CDC's holistic approach to community development is designed to promote neighborhood resilience and revitalization through family stability and wealth building strategies. This includes healthy rentals that lead to responsible home ownership, restoration of property values, opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship, and increased civic engagement. So I'm excited to welcome the executive director, Zach Cole, who I've known for quite a long time. I'm very proud of what he's done and seen this really from its infancy to where it is today. So I'm really excited to have Zach with us. And Zach is joined by their awesome operations director, Curtis Minter Jr. So facilitating today's discussion is the executive community liaison of Love Akron. I'm going to turn it over to Lori Porter.
Good morning. Thank you, Keith, and good morning, everyone. I don't have coffee, but I have water. So that's my first drink of the day. I hope everyone is well. Zach, Curtis, thank you all for being with us on this morning. And we want to just jump right in. Our task force thought that this would be a good time to really examine CDCs and how they are formed, started, how they are run, the benefits of the CDC, and how folks can sort of mimic the same thing in other parts of their own community. So I'd like to start out this morning by asking Zach and Curtis if they will tell us, those people that are not familiar with the well, with their mission, with the vision of the well. If you'd start out this morning by just sharing that information, tell us about the well's mission and the vision for the well.
Yep. Good morning. I'm Zach Cole, so the executive director of the well. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you guys for inviting us. It's always fun to be with a group of like-minded people and share who we are and what the well does. So the mission of the well is to invest resources back into the Middlebury neighborhood. And I know that's an oversimplification, but the way that we talk about that is we want to help build thriving community with flourishing individuals. So a lot of times community development corporations are started and geared around the built environment. So they're looking a lot at rehabbing housing or looking at economic development. You see a lot of community development corporations in the Cleveland area. But in Akron, we wanted to say, hey, we don't want just a pretty facade along Market Street and new development coming in along Market Street or new housing coming into Middlebury. But we really said, how do we create a context where we can have a thriving community with flourishing individuals? So we heard a quote that was pretty impactful by a lady named Majora Carter that said, you should never have to leave your neighborhood to live in a better one. And that's really a driving force behind who we are and what we're ultimately trying to do, is just create a context where our community is connected to resources that are needed to be able to flourish in their current context.
Nice. Great. So when you describe some of the initiatives, or can you describe some of the initiatives that have been birthed from the well? And can you talk about some of the staff that's there working with you? And I've been to the well, I'm familiar, so I know that to me, it's also another hub in the city, because it's more than just the well. It's more than, there's a church that you are housed there in that building, but it's more than that. There's a lot of partners that are housed in that building there. Can you tell us about that?
I'll take this one. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Again, my name is Curtis Mitchell Jr., and I serve as the operations director here at the Well Community Development Corporation. But fairly simply, Lori, all of what we do can be filtered through our three initiatives, and Keith has already highlighted them. And so one, restoring housing, which is our greatest priority, and I'll go into detail about that in a moment. Two, creating economy. And three, supporting place. So if anyone ever asks us what we do, it's those three things in some way, shape, or form. And so some time ago, Zach moved in the neighborhood, and what we quickly recognized is that the housing market was top-sided. Many of the homes that exist here were dilapidated and vacant, and were in dire need of repair. And so we set out this really audacious, hairy goal at the top of 2018, 60 for 60, where we hope to acquire and rehabilitate 60 homes in 60 months. And now we are well on our way. We have more than 40 units, more than 5 properties, if I'm not mistaken, and a handful of commercial properties as well. And so that's something we are running towards and put a lot of our energy and resources. Two is creating economy. And so you said we are a hub. We are very much that. And the majority of the social enterprises that exist under our umbrella exist in the Well facility. That is one, our coffee shop, Compass. And two, Akron Food Works, our shared use kitchen and incubator. In addition to, we also do a ton of special events outside of pandemics. And we have about a half dozen tenants who are mostly budding nonprofits. And last but certainly not least, is supporting place. About a year and a half ago, we were fortunate to partner with MKSK, who are also responsible for the downtown vision and development plan, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it's called. And they helped us create the Middlebury neighborhood plan, where they just set out some big picture directives on how to create a better neighborhood. And also fortunate to adopt a program called Akron Hope that is closely, and that's no understatement, closely tied to Mason CLC and Helen Arnold CLC, providing in-class tutoring, teacher support, work heavily with the leadership at those respective schools. And so big picture, restoring housing, creating economy, and supporting place. 5 programs that exist underneath that, that would be Akron Hope, Middlebury Housing, Akron Food Works, Compass. And I failed to mention our community tool library that just opened up 3 weeks ago, where we are creating memberships where people have access to tools that are relatively expensive and that would become even more costly if they were to bring in a contractor, provide instructions so that one day they might be able to do it in their own homes. And so those are the 3 initiatives that is the Well Community Development Corporation.
Man, listen, Curtis, you summed that up real well, which is amazing because, I want to just kind of pause and say that I know even at our church in South Akron, some of that is our goal as well, looking around us and seeing that some of the homes are dilapidated and they're just properties that need a lot of help. Zach, I know that you and your wife moved into Middlebury when you began the work, and I think that that's majorly important. For me, I feel like you can have a passion about a place where you don't live, but I think if you're truly passionate about it, then you want to be there right in the midst of it. That's the best way to really gauge the temperature and what's happening in a community. Talk to us just a little bit. Take us back to the beginning and tell us how the vision for the Well came about. Why it is, Zach, that you and your wife, I think her name is, don't get me today, I think, is it Megan?
Beth.
Okay, so Beth, I'm sorry, right. You all moved to Middlebury. Talk to us about that journey and how all that evolved.
Yeah, I mean, the vision and the personal motivation for the work, I would say it started back at 5 years old when I met Keith Morgenstern. And I don't know if Keith was at the church at the time, but I was attending First Presbyterian Church with my family. Wow. And so the building that the Well is now in is the congregation that I grew up a part of. And so in high school, I was a part of starting summer camps that connected with 80 plus kids in the neighborhood every summer. And then I just through high school, through college, was frustrated that I would connect with kids for 2 weeks in the summer. And then I would go home to the west side of Akron, and I went to Firestone High School and all that, but wanted to figure out how do we connect more and deeper and connect with kids more than 2 weeks out of the summer. So in 2009, we started a basketball program at the YMCA in the neighborhood. Where we just played basketball every Saturday night for 2 hours at the YMCA, which then turned into wanting to be even more present and more available. So in 2012, my wife and I bought our house on Jewett Street in the neighborhood for $4,000, rehabbed it, and now live in it. So yeah, that was the kind of the journey that got us there. And then we moved in and just said, hey, what does it look like for us to connect with neighbors? And how do we be intentional about meeting people and connecting in places? And so we adopted the language in John chapter 4, where Jesus meets a woman at the well. And there's nothing sacred, special, or spiritual about the well that this woman and Jesus are standing in front of. And so we would go to the parks and quickly found out that the park right down the street from us had certain perceptions and reasons why people didn't go there. The things that we heard were always rapes, drugs, and fights. And whether those things were happening at the park or not, that was the perception that we were hearing from our neighbors. We started a neighborhood group. We were part of starting a neighborhood group called the Neighborhood Network. We went to the 2 bars in the neighborhood. And there were really, at the 2 bars, it was 2 gay bars. And so what we found out pretty quickly was that people weren't coming to those bars who lived in the neighborhood. It was people from all over Akron coming to those bars. And so we started to ask the question of, hey, how do we create or build a well in the community and in the neighborhood? And that was really the vision behind this building at 647 East Market Street, was how do we create a gathering place, a place where our community can connect. It's the vision of the coffee shop. It's the vision of partnering with nonprofits and just creating a place here where people can connect. And then this building has just been the tip of the spear as we got into addressing issues that our neighbors were talking about and that became obvious. So housing, and how do we help bring the resources into the community in a way that helps build the housing market back, that values our neighbors again. So.
Yeah. Curtis, so before coming to the well, sort of what were you doing and how did you land at the well? Just curious.
That's a story to tell. And so one of my favorite sermons has been delivered by Dr. Charles East Booth, who passed away earlier this year. But he says nothing is by chance or accident, but by providential arrangement. And I believe that was my runway towards the Well Community Development Corporation. And so in summer of 2015 at what was the Legacy Conference devoted to urban discipleship, held annually at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, Illinois. I was with the fellowship program that I was a part of while living in Denver, Colorado. And I met this guy, and the facilitators who were my direct reports and pastors of the church that I attended mentioned that I was from Akron, Ohio. And so this kid comes running up to me afterwards talking about, man, my name is Pastor James Talbert. I attend North Canton Chapel. And we're starting a church, Curtis. We are starting a church. I'm so incredibly excited. And that was enough for me. And I said, God bless you, in a really condescending fashion. And I still apologize to him to this day. But he stayed in contact and would regularly message me via Facebook. And we would dialogue. And I believe it was October 2016, Citizens Akron Church was launched. And I came home for the holiday a couple months after, and we connected over breakfast. And he said, man, you got to come see the well. And I'm like, well, what the heck is the well? And he was like, well, let's just go. Let's go see it. And I walked into 647 East Market Street, what was formerly First Presbyterian Church. And we walked into what was the fellowship hall and is now Compass, and it was complete concrete rubble. And I told James, I don't catch the vision, but I'm trusting you, and I'm excited about what you all are doing. And so motivated by multiple factors, including family, I recognized that there was a job listing, applied at the end of that summer, 2017, and joined the staff here when it was just 3 of us, 3 full-time persons, 1 part-time person, August of 2017, and the rest is history. And so now we're at 9 full-time employees, 2 part-time staff, and an AmeriCorps Vista. And things have drastically changed, but it has really been a privilege and an honor. And it's been a blessing above all things. So.
Yeah, you guys almost need a before and after wall, because I've been to the well. What's amazing is right before you all acquired the building and they began the work. I mean, I'm still blown away by the fact that the tables in the coffee shop are made of the well. I mean, the benches that were in the sanctuary, you all converted those into tables. So for those of you that are on today, is the well currently, is Compass Coffee currently open?
Yes, the coffee shop is open. And so we're currently doing 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. But after September 1st, we'll have extended our hours. And so we'll be doing Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on Fridays, we'll be doing 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And on Saturdays, we'll be open 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So please come out. We're releasing those fall specialty drinks that everyone loves. And of course, we have Wi-Fi for all the students who are taking a wide variety of online classes due to the circumstances. And so please visit our space. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, get that mask on and go by. You will not regret the trip. So you all there in Middlebury, the housing initiative, tell us how many folks, how many houses to date, how many families have you all impacted with that particular initiative?
So we've been able to acquire 45 units, and that's 32 buildings. So we have a few multifamily units. So in 2018 is when we kind of set out the goal of 60 for 60 that Curtis mentioned, and we're 32 months in with 45 units. So.
Do you happen to know how many of those 45 units, how many folks moved in Middlebury versus how many were already there but perhaps just needed proper housing?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure how many came from outside of Middlebury and how many were already here. It's been a huge blessing to be able to see some of the families that we've connected with over the years, like before we even started the well. Are in stable housing for the first time. So we connected with a young family right when we moved into the neighborhood, single mom with 5 kids. And she moved. Since the time that we've known her, she's moved every 3 to 6 months. Kind of the eviction cycle has ruled her housing life. And so she moved into one of the well houses in spring of 2018. And this is the first time in her adult life that she's lived in the same home for 2 years. And so her kids are starting school in the same school system or in the same schools for the first time in their lives. And it's been a phenomenal stability for her and her family. We have 28 tenants. So it's 28 families, and that's an ever-growing number. We've never advertised or let people know that we have rentals available, but we have a waiting list of 10 plus families who are waiting to get into some of our properties. And really, we just hired a lady named Joyce Fox about 2 months ago as a property manager. So prior to this, our housing director was trying to rehab houses and manage tenants and have conversations with tenants. So he was spread pretty thin, and Joyce comes in and is really helping us think about what we're calling our healthy housing pipeline. How do we connect families in at any level of the pipeline, from subsidized federally funded housing to being able to own your own home? And everyone wants to fall on the scale there somewhere. And so Joyce is really coming in and building out our system of how are we working with families to get them to the next phase in the pipeline. And to be honest, recognizing that some people don't want to own their home. And so how do we educate and teach people the benefits of renting versus owning their home, and creating a context where anyone can be where they need or want to be for their current context. So we're really excited. We think Joyce comes in and adds a lot of opportunity for us to continue to impact and continue to have conversations with families, get to know them on a deeper level, and helping them understand where they fall on that pipeline and where they could potentially be.
That was really my next question about home ownership, because, and you're right, Zach, some people don't want to own. I remember different times and seasons in my life, and I thought, if the furnace goes out, I don't want to worry about that. I'd rather I don't want to mow the grass. So that's beautiful and amazing all at the same time, that you can provide almost like making dreams come true for folks that are on either end of the spectrum, regardless to whether they're wanting to buy or not. So my question is, a number of churches embark on similar initiatives. And as I stated, Even myself, our church acquired a building in South Akron. And so many times the funding is not available to make this happen. Would you explain to everyone here, those that are on other social media platforms watching this morning, how you structured the well to be able to obtain funding through grants or donation to help continue these initiatives? And that's a big one. I know for pastors like myself, we're often looking for ways to help the community. But many times, like you said, you grew up in West Akron, but that was far West Akron, right? Like I like to say, wasn't in the hood. But when we get in some of these places that might be referred to as the hood, if you will, what would you say to help us understand maybe best practices and ways to secure funding? What are some small steps that people can take, or organizations or churches, to begin this process of doing exactly, or any part of what you all have done?
Curtis, you want to jump in, or?
I'll start from the very beginning, and I think this is critical and not talked about enough in relationship to nonprofits, but ought to be talked about all the time. Board development. Board development is an integral component to the success of a nonprofit organization. These persons are fiduciary responsible for the organization. And so our very beginning include a very dynamic group that was Tom Strauss, who I'm sure many of us are familiar with, Craig Anderson, and of course, Doug Cole. They began to plant seeds that have now blossomed into something far more, and laid a steadfast and immovable foundation for us, just with their prowess, their intelligence, all of what they've accomplished in their own personal careers. And so the trajectory was set incredibly high from the very beginning, and been fortunate enough to have others like Paul Eck and now Ann Dorr, who chair our board, and a handful of dynamic persons who love what we do, recognize our capacity as staff members, and allow for us to do what we believe and what is informed by local residents that needs to happen in the Middlebury neighborhood. I would say too, we have a motto here. We want to have nonprofit intentionality at a for-profit pace. And so this is an incredibly difficult tension that we choose to embrace. But we're all about doing. Zach, at this past year's annual meeting, just raved about our staff's capacity to do, but that takes dollars, right? Funds are the bloodline of any institution. And so we very much pride ourselves on having more than a half dozen revenue generating components. And so we can share this at some other time, but we have an impact report where you see very large revenues that are only partially created by funds from local foundations, but a number of them is lease revenue. Number of them is revenue from the coffee shop and the shared use kitchen incubator, the contract with the city, mowing vacant lawns. We also have lease revenues from the homes that are being acquired and rehabilitated, so on and so forth. And so that's a huge component. I feel like local philanthropic institutions are more willing to give when you're getting. And so that's something that we've also prided ourselves in doing. And then just having a ton of intentionality with the local foundations, a wealth of support from Akron Community Foundation, Burton D. Morgan Foundation, GAR Foundation, Knight Foundation, amongst others. I can't name them all, but we more often than not invite them into space so they can ask questions before we ask them for any dollar amount. And so I also believe that's critical to what we do and the success we've had. And I can keep going down the list, but those are three major factors for sure.
So talk to us about the incubator kitchen, which is really funny because I stood right there in the well. I don't know what, it's some years back. And because my cousin, shameless plug, hot sugar popcorn, which is gone. I mean, they just bought a warehouse. But he was sharing with me that there in North Carolina, they were having a very difficult time finding a shared kitchen space. You see them a lot, I think, in New York and some of the bigger cities. But here in our city, we didn't even have anything of the sort. So folks that are interested in catering, and if anyone knows anything about those regulations, you can't cook from your house and be a caterer, if you will. You can if you build a kitchen for said business. Talk to us about that shared space. I'm so excited about it. And when you guys launched that, I mean, I was calling my cousin and everybody else. I'm like, oh my God, somebody in Akron's doing it. Because one thing that is, I think that as a community that we should always look at our spaces that are not being used, except maybe once or twice a week. I often think about church buildings. I'm like, we go in on Sunday. Well, we used to. Now we're outside. We're virtual. But we would go in on Sunday and then you go in for a Bible study. And technically, there were these buildings that just sit almost, 75% dormant the rest of the week. And so talk to us about what you guys did with that kitchen. I'm excited in that program.
For sure. And so you said it in so many words, but the key word is activation. And so we had, I would say 2,300 square feet on our first floor behind the cafe. That was literally only being used to create breakfast sandwiches about 3 hours of the day. So needless to say, it was not used at its full potential. And so when I came on board, Zach asked me the question, you think you can build out a launch kitchen? This is my favorite story to tell. And I said, what's a launch kitchen? And so it's been this like magnificent journey over the past 2+ years, understanding what that means, being invited to and welcomed into the local food system. I always point out there's 3 prolific members of our community who helped me find my way because I didn't know my left from right. That's Heather Rostrick, who is the entrepreneurial innovation advocate here in the city of Akron. That is Beth Noor, who leads Summit Food Coalition, and Aaron Molnar, who is responsible for Countryside, what was known as Countryside Conservancy, devoted to local agriculture. So this idea that we can invite in food entrepreneurs into a commercially licensed kitchen with restaurant level equipment allows for them to graduate out of cottage law, where they may be able to produce a limited amount of their food product, but can come into our space where there is far more potential, so much so that they could find themselves eventually on the shelves of Acme or Mustard Seed Market or Giant Eagle, so on and so forth. And so it's a stair-step ladder. And so we've completely renovated our space. We opened up at the top of the year. And to debunk the myths, there are only 3 requirements, and even our staff is willing to walk you through this process. But 1 is a state business license. 2 is food business liability insurance, and 3 is a serve safe, and that's a generic term, level 1 certification. And so if you have those 3 things, or we can help you get those 3 things at a nominal fee, it's not incredibly expensive. It is a sacrifice, but it's not incredibly expensive. Then you have access to our facility where you can grow and mature in a way that many are not afforded, because you typically have to buy a brick and mortar and, make certain renovations and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we cut the red tape for you to start up, grow, and hopefully one day create a successful food business. Yeah.
Excellent. Did you want to add to that, Zach?
Yeah, Laura, I think so. One of the things that we said kind of from the beginning was, hey, how do we cut the red tape, like Curtis mentioned, and create context where we can have an economy in Middlebury again, right? And so the city and the county are going to do what the city and county do, and they're gonna work with large businesses, and they're getting their arms around working with entrepreneurship. But we said, how do we help support an economy from the inside out, right? And so what does it look like for us to one, start a coffee shop that drives spending in Middlebury for the first time in a long time, but then two, if we support small food entrepreneurs as they grow their businesses, that potentially turns into opportunities for small restaurants to be in Middlebury one day. So if you look out 5 years from now, I think what we would hope is that we're able to invest in the built environment and some of the old storefronts along Market Street or Exchange in a way that some of these entrepreneurs are then moving into developed storefronts or developed restaurant space to continue to grow their business. Yeah. So while we loved the idea to turn an old space into the incubator kitchen, it was really to say, hey, how do we get businesses going in our community? It was kind of taking that grand vision and bringing it to like, okay, but what's step one? Well, how do we eliminate some of the red tape to even start the food business?
Wow. And I want to backtrack a bit because I think Curtis and Zach, what I heard was one of the ways that has helped the Well to be as successful as they are is that you pulled together a board that really had the capacity not only to help lead you, walk alongside of you, share their wisdom and knowledge with you to help you reach your goals, but they also were men and women who sort of, if you will, put their money where their mouth was. They kind of help you all raise funds and fundraise. And I often say to nonprofits that, your board, that's important. Like the board is not just a group that comes in that just talks, we have a meeting and look at an agenda, but they actually as well are like boots on the ground at a much higher level that employees or staff would not be. Am I saying that correct? Because I think that's a very important piece.
And let me quick asterisk point. Akron Food Works would not have happened without a board member. And so Michael Bune, former CEO of Asia Inc., was serving on our board of directors and took a chance on a relatively young and immature nonprofit organization in the Well CDC and allowed for us to be a subrecipient on a USDA community food project grant that was ultimately covered a third of the capital costs for Akron Food Works to come into full fruition. And so, we greatly appreciate our board members, greatly appreciate Michael Bune, and greatly appreciate Asia Inc. Because had they not been willing to partner with us and make the sacrifice, then Akron Food Works, I would hope would have came into existence, but the roadway would have been much longer. So I'll pass the baton to Zach.
Yeah, and I would also, so board members are key and important for helping open doors and connect with the community in some pretty substantial ways. I would say one of the things that I think we did, so we had rehabbed 8 homes before we ever started the Well. And so the Well was an extension of a lot of the hard groundwork that we had done prior to the Well starting. And then I think this is something Curtis and I have talked about, but the idea of planning is something that a lot of nonprofits, we just want to do good work, right? So we want to make good things happen. We want to love our neighbors well. We want to do whatever it is that the mission of our organization is. But then we go and we sit down with people who what they understand is business plans, right? And so I would encourage people, I think this is something that we've done a good job with any of our social enterprises or just the well as a whole, is how do we put on paper what it is that we're doing so that we can clearly communicate the goals and the mission. I think that's been a huge, like, so talking about foundations, I mean, it's been a huge platform for us that when Curtis writes a 15-page business plan for, and it's not a 90-page business plan, right? But it's a 15-page business plan that he can put in front of any one of our funders to help describe who we are, what we do, why we have the capacity to do Akron Food Works, and why we think the finances is going to work. I actually sat down with the city of Akron one time with a pro forma, a financial pro forma, and they were like, no one sat down with us with a pro forma like this. They just expect us to give money, right? And so it's like a blessing to some of those people to be able to sit down with a plan and to be able to process through both the mission and vision, but also the financial implications of that plan as well. And so that's housing, Akron Food Works, Compass Coffee, understanding the financial implications, you know, whether, and we function in a market that is upside down, right? So it's different. And there are times where Compass Coffee is going to lose money because we don't live in a community. We're a destination. People have to intentionally come to us. So when less than 25% of the business community is not back to the downtown area yet, it's a struggle for Compass Coffee. But we understand the financial implications of that, and that's where foundations are willing to be supportive and helpful. Where I think we shoot ourselves in the foot sometimes is where we say, well, we just have this loss, and will you help us fill the loss? And that's not what foundations and organizations are looking to do. They're looking to help us execute our mission, but we need to understand the financial implications of everything that we do as well.
Excellent. Kendra says, how can businesses support the well?
Yep. Lots of ways that businesses can support. So, I mean, we have volunteer opportunities on lots of different scales. So our housing group is always looking for demolition teams, lawn care teams. If you have a little bit more skills around a hammer or a saw, you could be in homes working on homes with our crews. We have about 5 like really regular volunteers. Shout out to my mother, who is basically a full-time employee at the well in our homes. So we have volunteer opportunities on all different levels of housing, but we also work with the local elementary school and have tutoring opportunities. So we have Jen Valit is our Akron Hope coordinator, and she does a phenomenal job of coordinating volunteers to connect with students at the local elementary school. Curtis, anything I'm missing?
Yeah, always in search of gifted facilitators. So we were fortunate enough to acquire a curriculum just for Akron Food Works, created by Janeba Johnson Jones in Newark, New Jersey. It's called Hudson Kitchen Food Business Boot Camp. And so for all of those folks, and preferably business experience unique to food, if you'd be willing to teach, please visit our volunteer page on our website. But above all, we'd love for you to patronize our space. So please do join us for a cup of joe in the coffee shop. You know, it's been a fantastic ride, but I'll make an argument. And I haven't been proven wrong yet. We have the largest coffee house in the city of Akron. It is a fairly large space. And so to get your study on or have a meeting, you can be on your own little island in this beautiful, aesthetically pleasing venue, and enjoy your coffee and even non-coffee beverages. But Akron Food Works, for those who have food businesses, please just continue to make those referrals. And I genuinely do believe for those businesses who those may not make sense, contact us and just come see it.
Yeah.
Come see it. And that's hook, line, and sinker. Come see it. come see what was, 100+ year old church that had been vacant for 5+ years, being adaptively reused. And it's so much more than what you expect or think. It's so much more dynamic. I mean, taking note of some statistics last year, we almost averaged 100 persons in our halls, whether that be the coffee shop, Akron Food Works, nonprofit staff members in our facility last year per day. And so that's really exciting just to see it. Just come see it.
Yeah. So Jessica said, are you guys responsible for the basketball and picnic area that was recently added to Bookdale Avenue? Is that you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So, yeah, and that's to be honest, that was a vision that's kind of been slow to fruition. But it's great. So that basketball court is right next to my house. So it's on a vacant lot, and my house is right next door. And what we were trying to do is create a well. How do we create a gathering place in the community and a place for people to connect? So it was a partnership with the well and Citizens Akron, the church, in creating a place that the kids in the neighborhood can connect and feel safe and play basketball.
Listen, we are out of time this morning, but I want to tell you, I got a couple of ideas, Zach and Curtis, of how we can make up a little bit of that budget, because I think we need a couple of these kind of programs. It does take a village. And when we look at the city, you guys are committed to the Middlebury neighborhood. I think that that's a great example for us. To know where we're called and then to commit to that community. I always look at the early church, and I think about how they went from house to house breaking bread, and how people seldom shop where they live. They seldom go to church where they live. I mean, people it's almost like they outsource their lives, if you will. So I want to say to you all, what a wonderful example you have been. We'll talk about that idea. I'm winking over here. We'll talk to Coach Kemp, but I'd be willing to pay to come on a Zoom call with you guys just to be trained and to bring my team and get the information that we need to do similar, not exactly, we're not doing a kitchen or anything like that, but I'm looking at tons of houses in my neighborhood, and just was talking to the police on Sunday going, they're either going to have to tear it down or give it to me. One or the other.
And Lori, I think this, and sorry, I'll get on my soapbox and I'll be quick because Curtis wants to jump in here too. But I think housing is one of the greatest ways that the church can impact communities, especially in inner ring urban neighborhoods. Yeah. So it creates a context where you're giving dignity, you're providing dignity and places for dignity to be found. And I think in America in 2020, housing is one of those places and things that can easily strip someone's dignity and push them to a place where they don't believe they're valuable, they don't believe they're worth anything, they don't believe they deserve a quality home. And imagine if the church engaged in housing in the city of Akron and created healthy, quality housing for people in our community. So, Curtis, sorry.
Yeah. And really quickly, we are not your only resource. Would love to be available to you and share all of what we've learned over the years, but place-based community development corporations have been an industry in Cleveland, Ohio for nearly half a century. There also exist Alpha Phi Alpha Homes and East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation, who function in a region, but are arguably CDCs. And then there are also the Kenmore Neighborhood Alliances, the North Akron Community Development Corporations, the Progressive Alliances, so on and so forth, who are actively serving neighborhoods here in the city of Akron. And I saw Brother Scott Myers pose the question around about business development. We've got some exciting things with a couple commercial properties coming down the pipeline, and I won't go into detail, but even more importantly, we are having some very honest conversations around about workforce development, and that's being led by our fund development director, Kelly McHood, on how do we get Middlebury residents employed. And so making that connection with the local anchor institutions is going to be one of our priorities through the end of this year and forevermore. And so just wanted to share that tidbit real quick. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I'm so glad this is being recorded because I'm going to go back and get all of that, Curtis. I'll send you a check for $25. Thanks for the info. Well, listen, it was a great morning with you guys. We so appreciate you all coming on. I know Coach Kemp Boyd, our executive director here at Love Akron, is probably antsy and waiting to get in. Coach, are you there?
I am. Good morning. Thank you so much, Zach and Curtis. Those are two brothers I've known for a little while, and just appreciate their openness to want to come on with us this morning. Thank you so much, Lori, for just doing a great interview with them, and Keith and our whole team and everybody for being with us. Man, my heart is heavy this morning, and I don't want to take away from what we just talked about, what we just discussed. But Zach said something that really sparked something in me when he talked about people losing dignity. And I think about Black people right now in America that are losing some dignity. We just had another Black man who was shot 7 times in the back, and Jacob Blake, and this is just tough times, man. And what I've told God, because I have this platform here at Love Akron, is that, man, I want to do everything possible to honor him in this platform. And the one thing I don't want to do is just pass over or gloss over things that are going on in our country. And I know right now it may not be right here in Akron, but if we don't begin and continue to have these type of conversations that can be uncomfortable, that can be hard, then guess what, man? These things are going to trickle into our neighborhood. And we have to be ready to do these things. We have to be ready to lean in. Zach talked about giving people back their dignity. And I think we have to begin to let people know that they have dignity. Because what I see right now, whether it's on TV or whether it's being said, where people saying that they're in fear of something. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a Black man who lives in America, and fear follows me every day. It forces me to have conversations with my children that, man, I know some of my white brothers and sisters don't have to worry about having. And so with that being said, if we could just please just continue to pray. And I know that's not the sexy thing because it's not the big event. It's not the protest. It's not the march. But I know that prayer works. I know that God hears our prayers. And another thing I want to say is again, this is not the sexy thing to do, but let's not stop talking to one another. Let's not stop building relationships with each other that span more than just beyond maybe business and sometimes just artificial discussion and conversation, but let's really lean in with one another. And again, this is a platform for us to do that. And we've been intentional about utilizing this platform to really have discussions about race, not just in America, but also within Akron, and to define what certain things mean. So I want to say that that's not something that may warm the hearts of the people that are on here. And that's not my intention. My intention is to continue to bring light to what is happening and going on, and that we still have people that are dying unjustly, and things are happening unjustly. This brother was shot 7 times in the back, man. His children was in the vehicle. That's just it's just a hard thing, man. It's a hard thing to accept. And man, we have to do better. We have to do better as people right now. And so, man, just thank you guys again. I appreciate you. Whatever we can do as an organization to help with anything, because we don't believe this is about us. We don't believe that Love Akron was never meant to be an organization, but more of a movement. And so as we continue to move, man, we just want to make sure that these things just don't become moments that we look back on and we say, oh man, that was tough, or that happened. But we want to make sure that we're being responsible for these things becoming movements. And, almost a year ago now, we're going to be having our next breakfast coming up September 29th. Man, I stood up on the stage and I said, man, we want to go from being a noun to a verb. And I hope, man, that we've done that. I believe that we're doing that. But understand something, man, we don't want to do that alone. We can't do that by ourselves because we're a staff of maybe 3 people. And so obviously we can't do that alone, but we have to do that with one another in a very meaningful way. So Zach and Curtis both know how I feel about them, and James and the whole team over there. But I wanted to say that because I know this has been a battle and a talk for a long time. And, you know, let's function as our being, as believers, first and foremost. And let's be image bearers of the God that we've been made in the image of. And so that Jesus can say, hey, man, that looks like me down there in Akron. I don't want it to look like Kemp. I don't want it to look like Zach. I don't want it to look like Lori or any one of us, but I want it to look like Jesus. And so in order for that to happen, we got to do the same thing that the reason why the well is named. We got to go through those tough and challenging spaces that Jesus did when he met her at the well with a woman that was totally different from who he was. But he met her there and he accepted her for who she was. And it changed not just her life, but it changed the life of a whole community. And I believe that is always his intention. So thank you again, everybody, for being with us. I know that there's some announcements or something I was supposed to say, but that wasn't on my heart. This was. So I'm going to pass it over to Lori or Ben, and you guys can make those announcements.
I got you. We will be at the big breakfast, and Ben's going to follow me and tell you all about that and close us out in prayer. But I just want you to know that in October, we'll be back. And our topic or theme, our guests will be Jerry Craig with the ADM board and some other folks talking about mental health, especially during this time of pandemic. Please watch your inboxes, your Facebook, your email for those announcements, and then invite someone to come and hang out with us on the last Wednesday of every month, except in September and December. That's it for me. Ben, you want to talk to us about the breakfast and pray us out?
Oh, so exciting, man. And I love that we get to love Akron together. And it's not easy, guys. And that's what we can see from the well. And I've gotten to work with those guys, and they know how to work, man. It's good. Couple quick things then. We have actually our breakfast coming up in September. So you definitely want to check this out. I actually got a little video to show you real quick about the breakfast and how you can engage both physically as well as what we call virtually online, just like this.
This year's annual awards breakfast, September the 29th. You say, what? You're having it in person at John S. Night? Of course we are, because why? We're Love Akron, so we want to give you options. So the first option we have is you can come and be with us physically in person at John S. Night on September the 29th, or you can register and be with us via Zoom virtually. 2 different options for you. Again, because why? We want to be open, and we want to open this up to as many people as possible to celebrate 25 years of collective impact with our award winners. Burnett Williams receiving the Brenda Unruh Servant Leadership Award. Also, Gospel Meets the Symphony, which is going to be our Allies Award winner. We're here to be the intersectional hub that unifies the colors, cultures, and congregations so that what? Greater Akron can thrive. When we can do that, what happens? Collective impact happens. I invite you, Greater Akron, to this year's annual awards breakfast, physically or virtually, September the 29th. Love Akron.
Oh man, you guys, you got to make sure to come out, check that out. You can join with us virtually as well as physically. You can see all the information at events.loveakron.org/2020 breakfast. We'll put the link in here. But let's go and pray real quick for all of us. Thanks for being with us this morning. God, thank you so much that we can come together online. And yeah, God, it's just good to hear about what you're doing all throughout our community. But it's also good to hear, Father, just the reality that we're living in our culture. So God, I pray that as we work and as we do things today, God, that we wouldn't be weary in well-doing. God, thank you for each one that is connected with us watching online. And I just pray for each one today, God, that they would take that step, maybe talk to that person that doesn't look like them, God, that they would reach out to the well, they would come to the breakfast, they would come to the conversation later today. And we would love Akron together. So we love you, Jesus. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, everyone, again for being with us. Please go get some coffee at the well, man. I know I was just over there the other day. I love doing some work there. Thanks for spending some time with us. And man, if you guys don't do anything else today, make sure that you love Akron.
Love Akron.
Bye.